Welcome back to another episode of Closer Look here across the Village Media Network and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Michael Friscolanti is here. As always, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Good to be back. It's Monday. All set to go.
Yeah, all set to go. We're going to talk tariffs again.
Oh, man. It's the gift that keeps on giving, but not in a good way.
Yeah, we left on Friday. Hope everyone got to watch Michael Garcia, the CEO of Algoma Steel, talk about the uncertainty around that company and the uncertainty that industry, that his company's feeling is all over the country. Different industries feeling the pressure because there is this looming deadline where, President Trump is saying that on August 1st, we're going to know what the new deal is, right? What the tariffs rates will be for various industries around the country. And there's just so much uncertainty around it. People just have no idea. And I feel like, what's today, the 21st of July?
21st, yeah.
As the day ticks closer, it's just more and more angst and uncertainty.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder. I mean, he changes his mind like, most people change their socks. And it makes you wonder, is that really going to be the day? We should almost start a pool. You could probably make a fortune because it's probably not going to happen.
And the signals are so mixed. Like, Prime Minister Carney talked last week about how he really doesn't see a path forward where there won't be a deal that won't have some tariffs. There's going to be some level of tariffs on the deal. And then I think it was the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, on the U.S. network on the weekend, talking about how don't rule out the possibility of still having free trade with Canada. Yeah. So just, you don't know if you're trying to bet on this FanDuel Sports Network, you have no idea what you're doing.
Don't know what the over-under is.
No, exactly. So we go from talking about it on Friday, we're going to talk about it today. Obviously, the premiers are meeting. It's the Council of the Federation, which is all the provincial and territorial premiers meeting. It's at Deerhurst Resort.
Yes.
Doug Ford, Ontario Premier, happens to be the chair of the Federation this year, so he's hosting the meeting there. And Mark Carney is on the invite list, right? The Prime Minister, which we've learned is a rarity, right? Usually this is the moment where the premiers get together and talk about what they need to address with the federal government, not necessarily have the federal government show up to the party. So Carney's coming, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but I kind of feel like it's going to be more like a presidential briefing. He's probably going to lay out to them what's actually been going on behind closed doors as they negotiate with Washington and what's actually potentially going to be on the table.
Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall?
Oh, it'd be unbelievable. We put such emphasis on these kind of meetings, right? When the premiers are meeting with prime ministers or they're having their own meeting, and a lot of it is photo ops and of course private discussions. Yeah. But it is. Everything is amplified right now because of Trump. Right?
Yes.
So everything that's happening around the country is amplified, and because everybody's concerned about what's going to happen on that front. So it'll be really interesting to see. We have great coverage of it across the chain. Our team at the Trillium, which is our team at Queen's Park, which I don't think we've mentioned on this show yet. They're our crack team of journalists covering the Ontario legislature. They're the largest bureau of Queen's Park journalists. They are at the meeting. Jack Howen is at Deerhurst Resort. He's one of our great reporters there, and he's going to be there for the next few days covering what's going on. And so we thought we'd invite him on the show today to sort of set it up for us.
Bit of a culling of a political herd in the Muskokas at the beautiful Deerhurst Resort in Huntsville. Our very own Jack Howen is there with the details. Hey, Jack, good to see you.
Hey, good to be here.
All right, fill us in. What's going on day one? Who's there and what's on the agenda?
All the premiers are here. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, is not. While the focus of the Council of the Federation is going to be on tariffs, trade, response to the U.S., today is about Indigenous issues. The premiers are sitting down for a few hours, they say, with several Indigenous leaders from across the country and across Ontario to talk about their concerns. And it's not hard to guess what those concerns are, given the recent lawsuit from several First Nations in Ontario against the provincial and federal laws aimed at speeding up major projects.
Good. Let's speak to some of those concerns, Jack, just to bring our listeners up to speed. They've obviously read a lot about it. It's been in the news. But what are their key concerns with the bill?
Yeah, basically the key concerns are that so the argument is that the laws violate the Charter, the rights to life, liberty, security, and equality under the law. They say that by speeding up these major projects, these critical mineral resource extraction projects, in the way that these laws do, that they're bypassing necessary Indigenous consultation. Indigenous voices are being sidelined. and they're not going to be included and basically going to be run roughshod over.
Mm-hmm. What are you hearing in terms of what impact these meetings could have today? I mean, obviously, this has been an issue for a long time. The Indigenous leaders are very concerned about this bill. Could this one meeting be a big breakthrough? What are you hearing?
Were I a betting man, I would say no.
Yes.
Anything can happen, of course. Mark Carney has been meeting with Indigenous leaders as well. Some of them walked out of a recent meeting saying that it was a step in the right direction. Others were less optimistic. Obviously, Indigenous people and First Nations are not a solid block and have many varying degrees of how much they welcome business and cooperation with other governments. But yeah, it's going to be a long meeting. We can say that it's going to be a few hours. Doug Ford has said, and we'll get the rundown after from some of the people inside the meeting as to what's spoken about.
Jack, paint a picture for us if you can. You've got all the premiers there. The Prime Minister is coming. Security must be crazy. Take us behind the scenes, what it looks like, and what you had to go through.
Yeah, well. For me, looking like I do, I kind of breezed right in.
What, they thought you were staff there or what?
I look like I have staff everywhere. But getting in, you definitely notice it. It's a lot of OPP. They got not roadblocks because you can get past them, but they're blocking off one lane on either side of the resort that where this is taking place, and there's a few officers and an OPP SUV stationed there directing traffic around. So they definitely got the place on lock. There's a big mobile crisis wagon just in case. And of course, when the premiers arrived, they were flanked by a motorcade of cops on motorcycles. So I don't think anyone is going to try anything, but if they do, be well prepared.
For sure. Jack, this was a regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of the Federation, which is all the provincial leaders. Obviously, Premier Ford, who's the chair this year, I believe, he invited Mark Carney. Is that the way this went down?
I don't know exactly whether it was Ford's invitation personally, but it is strange to have the Prime Minister at a Council of the Federation meeting. Mm-hmm. The Council of the Federation itself, despite its Star Trek name, is just the premiers of all the provinces and territories. And the Prime Minister is generally not invited because it generally functions as a wish list generating exercise for the premiers. They end it with a letter saying this is what we would like from the federal government, and we're all united in this front, and yada yada yada. So, it's honeymoon period for Carney with Canadians and with Premier Doug Ford, who has sung his praises at every opportunity. And obviously, everyone wants to present a united front in standing up to the man down south.
I assume as well that people want to hear, the other premiers want to hear from Carney on where we are at with negotiations with U.S. President Donald Trump. Sort of an update, a briefing, I would assume, is going to be part of this meeting?
Yeah, I would think so. That would certainly be a draw, is hearing straight from the horse's mouth how those are going.
And just in terms of the negotiations, obviously the premiers are waiting for that kind of news, but what are they talking about in terms of what they can do as provinces to continue to combat Donald Trump?
Yeah, everyone's got ideas. Ford has been banging the drum for months and months about getting rid of interprovincial trade barriers. His latest thing that he's been speaking about for the past couple of days is manufacturing steel I-beams here, manufacturing aluminum here, so that pop cans don't go down south and then back across the border, getting hit with tariffs every time. It's all about onshoring everything, he says. So,
Jack, speaking of the interprovincial trade barriers, what's the latest? Who are the holdouts still?
Yeah, we've got BC, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Quebec that Ontario hasn't signed memorandums of understanding with.
And can we expect that Premier Ford will try and get those three into a room over the next couple of days?
I'm sure he would love to end this conference standing shoulder to shoulder with everybody announcing a big win. We'll see. Quebec is famously amenable to these types of Canada-wide agreements. Yeah, he's got a job.
You've covered this issue closely about interprovincial trade barriers, and we've talked about it on the podcast as well. But can you give a sense, Jack, for how much that's actually going to make a difference if we break down all these barriers that politicians keep saying we're going to, or we should be breaking down?
Yeah, I mean, different groups will have different opinions on that. More conservative, libertarian groups, groups like the Canadian Taxpayers Federation have been banging this drum for many years, of course, saying it'll lead to hundreds of millions of dollars in growth. More progressive groups like the CCPA say that it's essentially an exercise in going with the lowest common denominator in terms of safety standards and whatnot, and the actual impact won't be that big. So it seems like it's going to happen. Basically, both levels, provincial and federal, are quite on board. So I guess we'll find out in a decade or so.
Exactly. We'll get you back on here in 2035 and make sure we go over that. Just so everybody knows, you're obviously with a lot of journalists nearby. That's probably what the noise is nearby. Lots of people mulling about, waiting for the next round of press conferences.
Yeah, I've excused myself from the journalist only room because I didn't charge my headphones. So I'm in a work room in the resort itself.
Oh, there you go.
Hallway to the hallway.
Very nice.
Oh, nice.
Buy a new shirt after, it looks like. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's touch on bail reform. I think the Prime Minister talked a couple of days ago about how this was something he was going to be talking to the premiers about, it, we presume, at this gathering. Bail reform is obviously a hot issue. We know our premiers talked all the time about wanting tougher judges and keeping criminals behind bars longer, especially even though they haven't been convicted. What's the chatter you're hearing there? Is that going to be an issue that's talked about this week?
Yeah, well, Premier Ford has definitely said that he's going to raise it, that it's going to be a topic of conversation. It's too early to say from the premiers themselves whether this is going to happen. They just stopped by to chat briefly with us, but with everybody in the room and the Prime Minister as well, you can bet that Ford is going to go at that.
Can I ask one more dumb question? I think some of our listeners would want to know as well, who don't have the opportunity to cover these kinds of events like you do. What actually happens? What actually comes out of these? Do you find that when the premiers get together in the same room for a couple of days, that a lot of concrete things happen, or that they pretty much are back to normal after a few days?
Yeah, concrete things almost never happen here, unless there's agreements that I don't know about. As I said before, usually at the end of it, it's a letter. It's a communique that says this is what we want from the feds, and this is what all of us agree on. And I'm sure those meetings are an exercise in figuring out what they agree on, what they don't, and what they can put in the letter. That said, there's something to be said for good old-fashioned face-to-face time and chit-chat. And if there were ever a time for those kind of soft conversations, relationship building between provinces, now is the time.
Just like we're having, Jack. It's nice to have the opportunity to sit with you. Haven't seen you in a few months, so it's nice to talk with you. Anything else, Scott, you want to ask?
Before we let you go, Jack, obviously a big agenda over the next couple of days. Anything that we didn't touch on that we should have or you'd like to bring up?
That's a good question. Well, across the way at a neighboring resort is the Canadian Health Coalition. It's a group of public health care advocates that are holding a shadow conference, as I think they're calling it, trying to get that on the agenda as well. The Ford government, for one, does not take what the Ontario Health Coalition has to say seriously and frequently derides it as an NDP-backed special interest group. But I attended their opening plenary this morning, and they were basically saying that the entire conversation right now from the leaders of every province and the prime ministers around trade and tariffs and how best to cut the budget and trim the fat and prop up industry and get Canada's industry going. And if that's the only conversation we're having, they say we're going to lose the things that we hold dear, like universal public health care, which is already being chipped away at, they say, in Ontario through these private clinics. So they're going to be rolling around in a cavalcade with signs and honking and whatnot tomorrow. And we'll see what the reaction is there.
The premiers might want to try that move. But I was just going to ask you, they going to try to sneak through the bushes tonight to crash the party?
They seemed very interested in respecting what the police had to say, I think, wisely this morning. So probably not, but we'll see.
All right, there's the Trillium's Jack Howen. Jack, thanks for this. Enjoy Deerhurst. It's a great spot. Remember, though, when you're traveling on the company dime, it's a 2-drink max.
All right, well, I'm at the Holiday Inn Express, so
it's a 5-drink max then.
You got upgraded. Nice.
That's right. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. All right, Jack's a lovely guy. But did it not seem to you like he was sitting in a washroom stall?
There was a moment when I was kind of looking, trying to figure out where is he sitting, and then
I was waiting for the reach back to flush. Or
finally, he showed us where he was. Right, but I've been there before. I mean, you're in an event where there's lots of journalists covering it, and there's a lot of hurry up and wait at these kind of events.
Of course,
right?
there is. Yeah.
So they're all sitting there, and then by the time this gets on the air, First Nations leaders will no doubt have spoken to reporters there about how they felt the meetings went. I'm sure some of the premiers will talk about how they felt the meetings went. So they're all kind of sitting there waiting for this to come about. And I guess, like Jack said, he forgot his AirPods. He hadn't charged his AirPods, so he wanted to go somewhere quieter, but you can still hear people in the background. But there's a great buzz to these kind of events, and like them running around from microphone to microphone.
Well, they all got a file, right?
Yeah,
so
they all got to file something. Yeah, so and that's and just so our listeners and our viewers understand, this is kind of how we envision this new podcast of ours, right? We're trying to have on, key stakeholders, big newsmakers, but also our great journalists to talk about the work they're doing, the things they're covering. So this is one of those moments where, as we're planning out the show this morning, it was, well, this is the big news of the day. Yeah. And we're lucky to have an asset like Jack on the ground, seeing this thing in person and understand. I mean, this guy understands the issues that they're talking about as well as anyone. He does great reporting on it. So we hope that people are tuning in and watching and seeing that this is the kind of stuff we're going to have. And these are the kind of people you want to be hearing from. Like you said, Jack, you've spoken to Jack a lot in the past. He
Dozens of times.
Yeah.
He does.
He's great. He's great.
Sharp as a tack. Deerhurst Resort, lovely spot. Have you been ever?
I'm trying to remember if I have. I don't think I have.
Great golf course there.
Yeah?
The Highlands.
Well, don't you go there 3 times a year? You stay in the Penthouse Resort or
That's
something?
right. I'd be at the Holiday Inn Express with Jack.
I know. And then you drive over to the golf course.
That's right. Okay, tomorrow night on the program, you talk about tariffs and politics. Going to keep that theme going with Nate Smith, former federal housing minister under Justin Trudeau, and got snubbed when Carney took office.
Yes, and he re-ran. Wasn't he going to not run and then ran for the Liberals
and
then was not chosen for cabinet? And he's been talking a lot lately about the Ontario Liberal leadership and Bonnie Crombie. He has some strong thoughts on that, so we're hopefully going to talk to him a little bit about his decision to come back as an MP, what he thinks of that decision now, and what he thinks the Liberal Party in Ontario should be doing.
All right, it's going to be a great chat. Nate Smith tomorrow night on Closer Look. Okay, that's it for us tonight. Closer Look at villagemedia.ca. Any thoughts or comments? We'd love to hear from you. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the Village Media Network, and of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast. For Michael Friscolanti, editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.